All right, great. Well, hello and welcome everybody. It's great to see such an amazing turnout for this virtual mountain moot. I've heard a lot of great things already. So I also want to thank you for your interest in this session on extending Moodle through integrations. Our presentation today is not going to take up the whole session time. So I'd like for you to save your questions to the end, as there'll be plenty of time then to address questions, and plus I don't know if I can multitask that well and address the questions as we go along. So, so first, let's get you some instructions on how to participate in the session. So I should ask, is everybody seeing the screen okay? What you should see now is a how to participate screen.
Yep.
All right.
See it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So today's session is provided via WooClap. And for those of you who might not be familiar, it's a tool that enables you to provide an integrated learning experience in your Moodle courses. I've built my PowerPoint presentation into WooClap inside this course, and you'll need to follow the connection information here in order to participate. So I'll give everybody just a few seconds to get connected, and please do use the chat if you're having trouble, and I'll try my best to help. All right, I see some faces getting settled in, not looking around so much. So I think you're landing in the right place. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, you know, access to this event. Let's see. Maybe it is because I didn't unhide the. Is that right, Michael? I didn't unhide my link here. You're muted, Michael.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah. So do you want me to unhide that for you, or or you got it?
All right. Can you try again now and see if you have access? Yay, thank you, Stephen. Perfect. Thanks, Maggie. All right, thank you, Lang. All right, I think we can get rolling here. Yay, thanks everybody. All right. So let's move on and introduce our presenters for today, or your presenters for today. My name is Kristen Kilburn, and I'm Senior Systems Integration Administrator for eThink Education. And I've been with eThink for a little over 4 years now, and I assist clients primarily with courses enrollments integrations and grades and attendance integrations, some third-party integrations, and a lot of custom reporting. I'm also a certified PMP, and I help a little here and there with the project management aspects of things at eThink. Again, it's great to meet all of you virtually. Let me check and make sure everything's good in the chat. All right. And I hope you find this session informative and helpful. I'd also like to introduce my coworker and eThink alum, Jesse Safran. Jesse, please go ahead and tell the group a little about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen, and hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm Jesse Safran. Yes. I am a senior technical analyst here at eThink. Have been with eThink for 4 years as well. Kristen and I started on the same day. My realm falls more into the technical aspects where systems kind of collide with Moodle. Building the backend configurations, doing some API integrations, authentication systems, SSO, things of that sort. So just kind of along for the ride here and help answer any questions, but it's nice to meet everybody.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So let's try our luck at a little poll. I'm going to take a quick poll. Oh, I forgot to say, I am coming to you from East Texas, a little town called Pittsburgh, Texas, home of the Pilgrim's Pride Chicken, if you're familiar. And Jesse, let everybody know what state you're from or what area you're from.
Yeah, I'm from the Middlebury, Vermont area, so I'm on the other mountains on the east side.
All right. So we're going to take a quick poll and find out what areas we have represented today. I wish we could take time to let everybody introduce themselves, but if we did, we wouldn't have any time left for the presentation. So instead, just take a moment to share with us where you're located. I'll give everybody a second to respond here. I like the word cloud better. Looks a little bit more fun. All right, Vermont. Nice. And everybody's seeing these results, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Perfect. Kentucky soon. Ah, that's curious. All right, that looks great. Thank you, everybody, for participating. It's great to see representation from all over the country, it looks like. So thanks again for that. So let's just talk just a second about eThink Education. eThink Education is a certified premium Moodle partner, and our key selling point is our service. We work hard every day to provide that high-touch, high-quality, comprehensive service, and a few of those services are listed on this slide. We provide integrations, hosting, consulting, and more. And this lovely picture here is of our co-founders and fearless leaders, Brian Carlson, our CEO, and Cheryl Patsavos, our COO. And as for an overview for today, we'll be focusing primarily on the SIS and ERP integrations, and we'll mention several of the different enrollment methods that are available, and we'll look at the different pieces of the eThink custom courses and enrollments integration, and then take a quick look at the grades and attendance integrations as well. So without further ado, I'll get started. Chat looks good. So the eThink courses and enrollments integration can integrate with just about any system that is built on a relational database architecture. So this slide shows several of the systems we've integrated with. You may be familiar with several of these and perhaps use one of them at your institution. We can also integrate with custom systems as well. So let's take a poll. Let's take another poll. Let's find out what systems you're most familiar with. And go. OpenSys, that's a rather new one for me. All right, and a none. Well, maybe we can help you with that one day. All right, I think everybody's had a chance to offer an answer, so thank you very much for that. It looks like Banner, PowerSchool, the Elution products, we're very familiar with all of those. All right, so there are several integration methods available in Moodle, and this slide lists several of them. Our focus for today's session, again, will be the external database integration method. The external database integration requires a secure connection to the SIS or source database, such as an IPsec tunnel or an encrypted connection over the internet. Of course, the best integration for your institution is going to be the one that best supports your requirements while providing the most up-to-date information in your Moodle site. The eThink courses and enrollments integration uses this external database plugin, a custom version of that plugin, and this slide will show just a fundamental depiction of how it works. The external database plugin is installed on the Moodle site, and it is configured to connect securely to the SIS or source database, and it uses query logic to pull course and enrollment data from the SIS or source database and load that into Moodle in the form of categories, courses, and enrollment. Great, thank you, Gavin, for sending that link. The integration does a lot of things. So this slide kind of gets us started. It builds a category structure using data from the SIS, and it loads those categories onto a custom open course categories page, which enables you to control when categories, courses, and enrollments are created in Moodle, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later. It creates course shells and can optionally use a template to create courses. It can create a single course shell for courses that are cross-listed together in your SIS and uses the query logic to do that. And it can also generate enrollments and process updates in the form of adds, drops, and withdraws that are detected in the SIS using that query logic. The integration also provides for automatic enrollments of an observer type role, which is very helpful for deans or department heads who would like to have oversight in Moodle, but not necessarily the edit capability. And we'll dive into each of these pieces a bit more in the next few slides. Our external database plugin provides for a way to confirm that the secure connection to the SIS is successful. And it does a quick check on the query logic as well to be sure that there aren't any syntax errors. So the green bars in this screenshot here indicate that the connection is successful and there are no syntax errors. If there was an error, if we didn't connect to the SIS successfully for some reason, or a syntax error, one or more of these bars would be red and an error message would display. Okay, unless a template is applied in the plugin, the integration will create course shells according to the site course default settings. So if the default for courses is hide, the integration will create courses as hidden, and it will honor all of the other site course default settings as well. Then you can configure the plugin to automatically make courses visible up to 14 days before the course start date. This is really helpful for instructors and administrators or anybody who needs to have time to prepare the course content where students can see the courses. There are also controls for whether or not enrollments are generated for courses that are hidden. A default role can be assigned in the plugin as well, or you can assign the role in the enrollment logic. You can also designate a field in the SIS that would be used to determine if the enrollment is to be an other user enrollment. And there's a selection here called external unenroll action that is used to control how the integration handles drops or withdraws. The options are to suspend the enrollment and remove the role, completely remove the enrollment, or keep the enrollment active. Okay, here in the plugin configuration, you can assign that other user role to be used with the Manage Observer functionality we'll touch on in the later slide. Usually a role called Observer is used here, but any role can really be assigned here, as well as multiple roles. There's a control for whether or not an observer roles are hidden, or added to hidden courses, and there is a control for limiting how far back the integration goes to manage those observer enrollments. Okay, this is the open course categories page I mentioned earlier. When the integration sync runs, it will use the query logic to pull data from the SIS and create the category structure per the client's preference. So this is just one example of a category structure, but this can really be any structure that works best, as long as it can be built based on data from the SIS and expressed in query logic. So to use this page, you would open a category by checking the checkbox next to the category and clicking Save. The next time the integration runs, it will create that category. It'll create any courses that belong in that category and generate any enrollments assigned to those courses. As long as the box is checked, the integration will continue to manage the courses and enrollments in that category. And when you no longer anticipate any changes to a category, you can uncheck the box and click Save. At the point when the box is unchecked, the integration will no longer manage that category and everything will be left as is from that point forward. This is a good way to assure that the integration sync itself is running as efficiently as possible. Of course, when the integration creates those categories, you're going to see them on the Manage Courses and Categories page in Moodle, as you see here. This is just a sample naming convention for the categories. Again, we can build the naming any way you like, and we can build as many subcategories as needed, really any naming convention that works best for you, as long as we can pull the data from the SIS and express the results with query logic. Okay, this is the Manage Observers page I mentioned earlier. When you assign an other user role, as we talked about, this will enable the Manage Observers page to be available in your site admin settings. The data entered into the course prefix column is used as a wildcard to enable enrollments in large groups of courses. The user entered into that first row there will be enrolled in any course that begins with BIO. You can also use that in a different way. You could set it up so that it would enroll that user in any course that had BIO anywhere in the name of the course. All right, so I think that covers everything with the courses and enrollments integration, and so we're going to move on and look really quickly at the grades and attendance integrations available in that same custom external database plugin. All right, so while the courses and enrollments integration is a one-way select-only integration that pulls data from the SIS and posts it into Moodle, the grades and attendance integrations are one-way integrations that read data entered into Moodle and post the data back to the SIS in a location specified by the client. The midterm final grade entry plugin is a companion plugin to the custom external database plugin, and it provides for entry of the midterm final grades into Moodle. Midterm grade can be disabled for those institutions who don't use midterm grading. Custom grades selections can be assigned by enrollment credit type. So, for example, for students with a pass-fail credit type, the grade selection can be customized to only include the letter P and the letter F, P as in Paul or F as in Frank, for example. The midterm final grade entry plugin also controls when grades are allowed to be entered using grade entry windows. Grade entry windows are assigned by category and are populated based on data selected from your SIS. The attendance integration reads daily attendance codes entered into Moodle and posts them to the SIS database in a location specified by the client. Both the grades and attendance integrations are based on the assumption that the SIS, or source database, is the system of record. So if there is already a grade entered in the SIS, the grades integration will not override it. And by the same token, if there's an attendance code entered in the SIS and it is newer than the attendance code entered in Moodle, the attendance integration will not override it. The grades and attendance integrations are designed such that instructors can conveniently perform most of their work while they're inside their courses and eliminate double entry by automatically posting grades and attendance back to the SIS. All right, let me check on everybody. Okay. So we're reaching the end of the presentation, and I wanted to show you two final things: the sync status page and the scheduled task page, or the scheduled task that runs the sync. The sync status page that you see here just provides a status of the most recent integration sync that ran. If any of these steps fails, a message will appear in the status column, so you'll know, and it'll be an informative message as to what went wrong. The sync status page also provides for a way to run the grades and attendance integrations on demand, which can come in handy if you're under a time constraint and you need that data entered and you don't want to wait for the nightly full sync to run. If there are any errors in the posting process of grades and attendance, those errors will be reported here on this page, and an automatic email notification will be sent to the support email address assigned in your Moodle site admin settings. Okay, this is a screenshot of the scheduled task for the external database integration. It can be scheduled just like any other scheduled task in Moodle, and it can be scheduled to run multiple times per day if needed. There is also a login sync that runs each time a user logs into Moodle. The only difference between the sync that runs at login and the sync that runs from the scheduled task is that grades and attendance data is not posted, and courses and enrollments are updated only for the user logging in. With the scheduled full sync and the login sync, we can assure that course and enrollment information is as up to date as possible for the user. All right, so just to wrap things up today, these types of integrations we've talked about today are possible because Moodle is modular. Moodle makes it easy to integrate with other systems. The courses and enrollments, grades and attendance integrations assist instructors and administrative staff by providing automation and assuring that the SIS and Moodle systems are updated automatically and efficiently. All right, so that's the end of the presentation portion of the session today. I'd like to take some time now and address any questions that you have. And before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody about the eThink virtual vendor booth. The information on how to access that is here on this slide. And I also hear you'll earn 100 Moot coin if you visit for visiting the booth. And then also we've got a couple sessions coming up that you might want to look at. All right, I think that's it. I'm looking at the chat here, and I don't see any questions right now, but you may be saving them up. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thanks, Gavin. All right, I know I didn't include everything. I know somebody's got a question. Yes, the question was from Gavin is, are all the integrations UI configurable? Yes, most if not all the configurations are available on the front end for you to set for the admin person. Thank you for the question. Well, all right.
Do we have a site we could show them really quickly that would show, basically how the connection looks without giving away any information about the client themselves? I don't know if we have any demo databases set up. Maybe one of the ones we connect with Unidata to, since that's a little less direct connection SIS and more to a MySQL database.
I don't have one prepared, Jesse. I could try to look one up while we're waiting for some questions to come in.
Union College, maybe?
Let me see.
While you're looking that up, Kristen, I'll answer Gavin's question here about the do we sell integrations separate from hosting, et cetera? No, that is part of our full approach. So the integration comes with your implementation with eThink as you come to us. And then I'll get back to yours as well in a second as soon as we have a second here.
All right. Jesse, I have unions set up an external database display, and I can show just a few things on that page, very similar to the screenshots I already showed. But hold on a second, let me share my screen. All right, so everybody see the external database screen? All right, so this is one of our live clients, and this is the external database plugin I was showing in the screenshots below, or in the screenshots in the presentation. This particular client, of course, the connection is good. You can also see here how long it takes to resolve the query logic for syntax check. And then this red bar here, this is a different example than I showed in the slide, but we just don't have any logic loaded to calculate the grade date for this particular client because I don't think, excuse my fast scrolling, I don't think we have the grades or attendance integrations enabled for this particular client. So back to your question, Gavin, yes, all of these features are available on the front end to be configured. And I don't know if I mentioned, but you can enable or disable the login sync. So if you don't want all that work being done when someone logs in, you can disable that option. Most people want it because it's a way of making sure the data is completely up to date when the user logs in. And this particular client is a colleague Unidata client. I didn't mention those because they're not real common, but we do accommodate the Unidata database in an integration. We just have to take a couple more steps to pull the data out of that particular database because I guess it's more of a flat database, not so much a relational database. So Jesse does a lot of the heavy lifting with these clients. He writes the code to extract the data from the Unidata database and put it into a place where the external database plugin can read it and apply the query logic. Jesse, is there anything else you want to point out?
No, I thought just would be good to see the configuration and see how the query logic exists on the plugin itself versus something we write in the back end. In addition to that, what you just mentioned, Kristen, Unidata, I don't know, I didn't see anybody put colleague earlier, but Unidata is an older database that was originally designed by IBM. It stores its information in files instead of a true relational database. However, they do have some ODBC drivers that will allow it to be relational, but it's purely Windows driven. They don't have a true Linux ODBC connection and driver available, and nobody in the open source community has written one, or at least not 3 or 4 years ago when we were working on this. I don't know if there's a new one out there. It's now owned by a company called Rocket that's a spin-off, and the workaround that we use is Java code. We write a Java program that basically uses the JDBC that they do make available. So it's a step around to make something work in Linux. And the reason why I'm kind of going into this depth is just to say this is kind of what we do. We try to look for something that's a little out of the ordinary and make it work for our clients. And that doesn't just, tie to integrations. It's plugins across the board, ways to make your classes a little bit more inventive, make plugins work that might not have worked otherwise for you in the past. So just to give you a feel for what we try to attempt and do anything.
And thank you, Jesse. I did mention a few times the query logic. So this is just an example. We have separate sets of logic that we would work on with the client based on how to query their SIS database or their source database. And so separate logic to create those cross-tally or cross-listed course shells versus the course shells versus the enrollment. This area here we use to automatically create those grade entry windows I mentioned earlier. All right, let's check back on the chat and see if we have Would you be able to have one to demo at vendor session later, perhaps? I don't know, but I can sure ask.
And there's
Did I
a
miss
question
any questions?
from Lang as well about the XAPI. So
There we go.
I will say that for the most part, what we have seen our customers using XAPI for, of course, is setting up an LRS and using the connection to pass information back to the log store. So you take that information, obviously, and report on it as the LRS will allow you to do. There is, of course, XAPI launch to be able to use that experience a little bit differently than, like, say, SCORM, a little bit more up to date. But I don't know if we have anybody actually using the XAPI launch at this point. So I'm going to have to go back and dig and look because I just want to know for myself. But for the most part, we're seeing a lot of people using it paired with an LRS and using the logstore_XAPI plugin that Moodle provides. Well, I shouldn't say Moodle provides, but it's out there in the repository for plugins.
Yeah, and I've used Logstore XAPI plugin before with connecting to other LRSs. Thank you.
Yes, thank you both. Thanks, Jesse. All right, any other questions? Okay, Jesse, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, if anybody has questions and wants to reach out, you can find us both on LinkedIn, I believe. I know I'm out there. Pretty sure you're out there, Kristen. There's our email addresses as well. Perfect. So if you have any questions or anything you want to know, please feel free to reach out to us.
Okay.
All right, thanks again, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
You bet. And I'll just make one last reminder to everyone. This was recorded, and when the presentation ends, once I stop the recording and the presentation ends, there'll be a short period where it processes, but then I'll be posting the recordings in the class.
All right, great. Thank you. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conference, everybody.
Thank you.